Yeah, anywho, how was your dinner? Should we start this thing?
I feel like that would probably be a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to be here till midnight, so yeah, whenever you're ready.
Like how you cleared your throat in anticipation.
Okay, deep breath.
Welcome to No Kidding Podcast.
Welcome. I'm Lisa.
Shocked? Are you?
Yeah. Well, you always start when I'm not expecting it.
It's got to be sudden. You got to be. This is candid. You know.
Geez.
Got to get the true reactions. This is raw. This is podcasting, unfiltered.
Are we authentic? Is that real?
Yeah, we're the most authentic.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there's no script. How much more authentic can you get?
True. Oh,
we don't even have a list of things we want to talk about. That's how authentic we are.
This is true. It's not a good sign when I'm starting off the podcast in tears from crying, laughing. That means I'm not going to be able to hold myself together very well.
Oh boy, you're already bursting at the seams. How raw.
Anyways, so how's it going?
Pretty good. I assume like this podcast is going to come out pretty close to the beginning of the year. So
yeah.
It's probably going to come out right about the time that we can make people feel ashamed of themselves.
In what way?
We talk about like, do you have any New Year's resolutions?
Oh, the New Year's resolutions. Actually, I was thinking about this, and I don't know if I'm all for the New Year's resolutions, to be honest. I feel like...
Me neither.
Okay. Hey, we're so similar.
Input. Go.
Okay, we're so similar. So I just feel like it's setting you up for not failure, because I think that you should be setting goals for yourself throughout the year if you're a goal setter. If you're a goal setter, you'll be doing that anyways. But if you're doing just New Year's resolutions, that typically means you're not very much of a goal setter to begin with. And more than likely, those goals, those like big, and they're usually, big lofty goals, they're just going to result in failure. I mean, I hate to break it to you. And then it's going to shatter your confidence, and then you're never going to do the things that you say you're going to do at the beginning of the year. So I feel like it's a much better thing to do rather than to make big New Year's resolutions is to like clear things out and start fresh. Like that's the new year comes with like new mindset and like do a total clean out, get rid of all the crap in your house that you don't want, get rid of like organize some stuff, get things kind of like set for success, like set up your life so that, you feel ready to take on the new year.
So instead of like piling on resolution, you do like a New Year's shedding.
Yeah.
And strip things back.
That's kind of...
Avail yourself of all the unnecessary clutter and pressures that are on top of you.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, that's my viewpoint. However, I will say that rather than like having like it's like specific resolutions necessarily, you might kind of throw out some things that you want to try in the new year. So like, nothing major. Like, hey, I want to try something new this year, or I want to go somewhere new this year, and kind of make that as more general goals rather than, because I think specific goals you should be doing anyways, like every 3 months or so. Not to be bully about it, but just saying.
Well, yeah, I think we've talked about it previously. Actually, I vaguely remember this, but yeah, I think we've always been on the same page on this, in the sense that like a year is way too long of a goal, like time frame.
Yeah.
It's just like you can't really, any kind of like actionable results you're going to get are only going to be really seen in the short term. And I feel like your goals are the target's bound to change over the course of an entire year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think anybody can be a goal setter, or at least maybe they're not naturally one, but they can benefit from it. But they're certainly not going to, a good start certainly isn't like, this year I will be healthy.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, that's such a long period of time to try and adhere to something that is new. And then as you flush it out and try it out. You're going to, have different goals, and you're going to want to adjust and say like, okay, well, maybe this year is more specifically going to be like exercise, or, this year I'm, going to try and like cut back on carbs and breads or something.
Right.
But even that's like tough to stick to for a whole year, especially when like you can hit a point where it's no longer even relevant, like you can achieve that goal, and then like if you set it too small, you just achieve one thing, and then the whole rest of the year you're like, oh, okay, I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I feel like
I also feel like the end of the year for me is a good time to reflect on the previous year and find out what worked, what didn't work, what, kind of setting yourself up for the beginnings of what your next year might become, and finding out which direction you want to maybe shift a little bit in, and what, goals you might want to start thinking about for the year. But I kind of feel like, again, like the big traditional New Year's resolutions are kind of just, I don't know, I think they need to change a little bit, I guess. I also feel like I saw this thing floating around on Instagram where it's like a bunch of jumbled letters, and within the letters are a bunch of words, and they say the first
crossword puzzle.
It looks like a crossword puzzle. Well, I guess it kind of is a crossword puzzle.
Or no, a word hunt.
Yeah, in a way. Never really thought of it, but yes, that's true. What they say, the first 4 words you see are the things you'll focus on in 2021. So it's kind of, but what was weird about it is I posted it on my Instagram to see kind of like what people would get. And knowing the people that responded, it's kind of crazy that the words that stood out to them, in my opinion, aligned with who they really were, like the things that were important to them. So I don't know if your brain you're like
confirmed.
Yeah, like is looking for those things. You know how they say whatever whatever you think about is what you'll see. So like if you're a positive person and you think of things positively, you'll more than likely have a more positive day, versus if you're like negative and you're thinking, oh, everything's bad, then you're just going to have a bad day because everything you see is bad, and you take everything.
Things are kind of highlighted by your bias.
Right. So it was interesting about this word thing was that, the people that picked the words that they saw, it was like for example, someone I know who's creative, who's like kind of business savvy, and kind of like, I don't want to go as far as to say vain, but like thinks about, like cares about their looks a lot, I guess. I don't know, stuff like that. Like their words were things like business, creativity, appearance, like things that kind of matched their personality. It was just interesting because then other people got completely different words. People like who were more like down to earth or had a family or whatever, they got like family, strength, stuff like that. So it was just weird how the words that came out for each person matched kind of who they were.
Yeah, I find it super fascinating to like see human bias, because I think, when you're trying to, it's almost useful in every kind of communication you have with somebody, is just kind of like understanding when like a little bit of bias is playing into how they perceive things, or like why they're being a certain kind of way. And like, it's hard to not get a little psychoanalyzey, but I mean, I think it really helps, like if somebody's telling you a story, to just be aware of like what you know about the person, and kind of like perhaps essentially filter shift it back.
Yes.
Like it's almost like you're seeing things through like filter, and you have to like apply the opposite filter to kind of get a little closer to the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have this there was this really cool website that I found recently. It's called Your Biases, and it's like yourbias.is, and it's super cool. It goes through like a bunch of the most common like human fallacies and biases, and just kind of like explains them, and explains like the effects of them, and like the kinds of like people that gravitate towards them and stuff. And it's just kind of fascinating because I think almost everybody has a little bit of almost every kind of bias.
Sure.
In different situations, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
It's just like occasionally you'll get into a situation. It's nice to have them laid out and kind of read through them in a way that makes you think like, oh, I know when I do that. Like, and actually is like really good for introspection as well.
Yeah. I don't think people do that enough is do introspection and really think about like their perspective and why they have that perspective and that like, why they think the way they do and who they really are, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Like one of them that I definitely connected with was is this the right one? Hold on, let me look at it. I'm on the website right now.
Yeah.
Reactance. I definitely see this in myself a lot. Reactance. It's you'd rather do the opposite of what someone is trying to make you do.
That's me too.
Basically contrarianism, what we were just talking about before the podcast started. And
yeah, I can be like that too.
It's just like the instant somebody suggests that, hey, like if it's too pointed, if they're like, you do this, and it's like, I don't know.
I gotta think about that.
Suddenly I feel a strong
desire to do this.
Sense of satisfaction out of doing exactly the opposite of that and watching you realize that you have no power over me.
That is so funny. I kind of feel like all of us are that way, like the siblings, and I wonder if it has something to do with the way we were raised. But who knows? Maybe not. No, I think there's probably a little bit. I know, right? But I do think that there is probably a little bit of that in a lot of people. Or at least I think most people would say that they are like that, even though they're not, because I don't know, like I feel like, because, okay, so for example, I was watching, Mike and I were watching clips from this show. We weren't watching the full show because it's on a one of those streaming services we don't have, but they were showing clips on YouTube of it. But the whole point of the show is to show kind of like group mentality. So like what you could be forced to do if the people around you are also doing that thing, I guess.
Oh, yes.
Like herd mentality
herd
kind
mentality, yeah.
Yeah. So, and there's so many times in that I'm like, there's no way I would never do that, you know? And I'm thinking, well, I'm sure everybody would probably say that they wouldn't do it, but if they're put in a position, would they do it? And so I had to like empathize my way and like put myself there and really think about it. And I was like, no, I would still not do that thing. Like, because I think I'm that way where I'm very observational. I learn from people's mistakes by observing. And so I feel like I would say no, like I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I would think being a free thinker is definitely an advantage to our type of mentality. But there's also, I think, particularly this being a bias kind of shows that the downside of it, and that you would almost intentionally hurt yourself just to make sure that you're still being an independent thinker. Like you would actually choose the wrong thing just to be like, but I chose something on my own. And
I feel like that's happened to me before multiple times, and I'm like, why do I have to be so stubborn? But yeah, there were cases in which I felt like I might go along just for the sake of not standing out, because I am an extreme introvert to the point where I could see myself doing something just to like not stand out, you know, like I don't want to cause chaos or like too much tension, but I might question it first. I might say, you know, I really don't think that this is the way to go, you know, and fight it a little bit. But, you know, if it wasn't harmful or something, I might say, whatever, I'll just go with the flow for now.
Under the tab of groupthink on your bias, it says dissent can be uncomfortable and dangerous to one's social standing, and so often the most confident or first voice will determine the group's decisions.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of that thing of being like, all right, well, I don't want to stick out, so we'll just kind of all move in the same direction. Mm-hmm. Which I think, again, is also can be, there can be positives to it, right? Like, obviously, a society being able to function is kind of dependent on everyone not having their own little slightly different opinion and going with that.
Yes.
Like we all at some point have to kind of be like, all right, well, I don't see anything wrong with going in this direction, so let's go, I guess.
Right. But I will say that, like, in our family, I would say, like, I don't know how to put this, but basically, sometimes I feel kind of like a black sheep because of that, because like I don't do the status quo and I always question. And that's true with like with work too. Sometimes it's like if everybody starts saying, oh yeah, I'll do that, I will always question. I'm like, maybe
that's the
it's
best time to question.
I think part of it is just being super suspicious and like and trusting too. Like
Paranoid.
I feel like, yeah, like I'm like, I'm gonna double check that. Before
I also think it's kind of funny how these link together, because like groupthink can fall like victim to the Dunning-Kruger effect. Like that bias that the more like confident someone is in their own abilities, the more it actually often turns out that they're bad at what they're confident in. Like essentially people tend to be a lot more confident that they're able to do something if they don't know how it works.
Really?
So they'll be really confident about something, like, oh yeah, hey, let's all go in this direction, and everyone will listen to them because they're the loudest and like most confident sounding people, but they actually have no idea what they're doing.
I think that's pretty common with like, yeah, you kind of have to fake it till you make it, that whole thing. And people do resonate better with people who feel like, yeah, I mean, that seem to know what they're doing, which is how so many people are starting businesses and getting rich on things that like they've never done before. They just act like they know what they're doing, which, you know, is part of the whole thing. So it's part of the equation.
The sad part about the Dunning-Kruger effect is the people that often are the best at that thing don't want to, like, don't think that they're that good, because the more they learn about it, the more they realize they don't know so much about it, right?
Yeah.
The more you learn about something, the more you realize it's a massive topic, and you can never really know everything, and you know like such a small percentage of it, but that percentage can still be way bigger than most people.
Exactly. It's that imposter syndrome of being above others, but also not being above the best, and therefore you don't feel good enough because you're not the best at it, or you don't know all of it.
Fascinating stuff.
It is fascinating. Psychology is probably like the most fascinating thing, like the human brain, the way people are.
You know what I find kind of weird? I mean, I kind of get it in a way, but there aren't really any philosophers anymore, you know? It's weird.
Philosophers?
Yeah, because, like, you know, there used to be so many people thinking, like, well, I say so many people, but there were more people concerned with, like, how society should be and the, like, mystery of consciousness in the human being and how we all work together. And, like, there used to be a lot of, I feel like, study and thought about it, and now it's kind of like loosely tacked on to psychology, but like psychology is more, I think, in a lot of instances either on an individual level, or if it's being applied to the masses, then it's more usually in the context of like advertising and used as like a driving force to like get money, or
like a marketing
make
tool,
some venture successful or something,
right?
You know?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I have a psych degree, and I could have gone in so many different directions with that. But again, it's like very specific and niche if you want to really do anything with it. It's one of those degrees that it's kind of like, yeah, it's very specific. Yeah. So, yeah, but it is fascinating. It's like you just, and again, like we've talked before, how I have so many interests, how it was just impossible for me to pick one because they're all so fascinating, or most of them. There's some that are really dull and boring, but
yeah, but I mean, when you're fascinated on a topic, like you can see all of those like high standing points that you would jump out to if, you know, you had infinite money and time. You didn't have to worry about actually bringing home the bacon or something.
Of course, yeah. Well, I was going to mention something. Oh, that I don't know if I've mentioned this in this podcast before, but I recently was reading a philosophy book.
Interesting.
I was only kind of flipping through it because I was thinking about buying it, but then I didn't. So I don't even know which book it was. I can't recommend it or anything. But one thing that I remember from it was saying that pessimists, like whether you're an optimist or a pessimist, pessimists are more fulfilled and satisfied or content and happy than optimists overall. Like I guess they did do like studies on this, but the philosophy was that if you're a pessimist, you're happier in life than if you're an optimist. And the theory behind this is that for a pessimist, they basically look at every situation at its lowest. So they have like the lowest expectations for things. So whenever something good happens, it's like they're pleasantly surprised because they didn't expect it to be good. So they're constantly like, oh, that was better than I thought it was going to be. You know,
whereas, I don't know though, because I feel like a lot of people refer to me as like an optimist, whereas I kind of think of myself as a realist, but so does everybody, I suppose.
I do, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I generally, when I'm called an optimist, it's because I'm like, well, I mean, you know, that movie could be terrible as long as it's, you know, worth the $10 or whatever to get in, it'll be okay.
Right. Like, so I'm like you in that I think that's more of an abundant mindset rather than having optimism. Whereas like the true optimism is like you always think things are going to be good. You always have this like high expectation for things. And I guess that's why they say, you know, optimists are more often let down and they end up like shooting for the stars and never really reaching what they hope for. And then they're constantly searching for that, you know, dogma.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I'm thinking like what kind of people maybe they're referring to as optimists. I'm thinking maybe like super bubbly personalities that people are always like, yeah, this is going to be great. And they kind of charge into situations and oftentimes like get hit with the harsh realities.
Oops. Yeah, right.
I don't know if I'd really call those people I mean, they're definitely optimists, but like I would say the problem there is more naivete than optimism.
Well, I guess that's true. But I mean, I think there is like a level of just always saying, oh, no, everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to work out. Life's great. And there is like a certain level of having too many high expectations and not having, like you said, like a realistic approach to things, which I think, you know, some people can get. Like, I think that's specifically what they were referring to. Let me look up what an optimist actually is, if there's a specific meaning for it.
While you're doing that, I just noticed, I guess, what sparked this conversation where you're saying like things jump out to people like based on what they're already kind of thinking about. And I just noticed on the site they label that as the availability heuristic, that your judgments are influenced by what springs most easily to mind.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess that's true. Wouldn't that always happen if your judgment's always...
Yeah, but it's just like what we were kind of thinking about when you were talking about the like word search and how things that are appropriate to people tend to jump out to them first.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see that.
Just how their mind filters to like what's like if they've already been like possibly thinking about a word recently, then that's obviously going to jump out to them quicker.
It's like those things where you never see like a certain car, and then you think about like you think about buying a car, or you see a car, and then it's on your mind, and then you see it everywhere.
You're like, nobody has a Chevy Tupama, and then you're like, oh my God, everybody has a Chevy Tupama.
Yeah, exactly.
They're green, black, brown, they're every color.
So it says, the dictionary says that an optimist is someone who always believes that good things will happen.
Yeah, nobody's that. Do those people exist? I don't know. Again, that just sounds like naivete. I don't know.
Yeah, but I'm sure that it's true that some people like put way more belief in. To be honest, I feel like people who are optimists have been let down a lot, and therefore they like, it's almost like they're always just saying, oh, things will get better. It's like their coping mechanism to say, well, things are going to get better. This is going to be better. This time it's going to be good. This time it's going to be the best ever, or he's really going to like me this time, or you know what I mean? And then they're disappointed because it doesn't work out. And then eventually they become depressed, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I could see that happening.
Yeah, I think it might be just that, that kind of might drive you mad if you think that like, oh, good things are always happening. Like, but for some reason, not to me. So, I mean,
exactly.
I feel like my brand of optimism, I don't know, maybe there's a more appropriate word would be like positivity. It's just like, I think most things will be bad, but that's okay. I mean, it's like,
oh, you're a pessimist.
It's like going to the beach and expecting every shell to be beautiful. It's like, that's not going to happen. It's just most of them are just kind of like cracked, dull, gray pieces of stuff. But
well, they could be beautiful if you look at it the right way.
I mean, if you're at the beach, there's like a billion chances for something good to happen. You just got to find the right one.
Right. I guess that's true.
So you just focus on the positive rather than all of the like things that might not be as interesting or good.
Well, okay, so a pessimist in the dictionary says a person who thinks that bad things are more likely to happen or who emphasizes the bad parts of a situation. Right. But I was also, so going along with this, so they were saying pessimists tend to be more content and happy in life, and optimists oftentimes are less happy and disappointed in life. And, but I was going to say that that might be true, but going off of our definition, I guess, of optimism is what kind of like what I was thinking also, was that even though pessimists might be content and happy, they also might be not be living to their fullest potential because they're always thinking like, this is good enough. Whereas optimists are always reaching for more and like trying new things and going out and above and beyond to like, you know, their comfort zones more often. So they might have a more like full life experience, even though they aren't happy with it.
Yeah, they open themselves up to so many vulnerably to so many situations where they can just be beaten down.
Yeah, right. So I don't know whether
it's like draining you. It's like you could get really far, but then you're just like, ugh.
Yeah.
Like,
so I guess
so much
like,
out of me to get here.
The best thing is to find a mix. Like I think what you're saying you are, and I think I am, is kind of a mix. Whereas like it's not necessarily pessimism. It's more like realistic. But I also have an abundant sort of like positive mindset to where I can make the best of the situation or think, oh, okay, well that happened, but let's try this, or like quickly make it less of a bad thing, I guess.
Yeah.
In most cases, not always, but
that's why I feel like we're more realist than I guess people would maybe say. Maybe people are just really negative lately, but I feel like you just don't want, if you have rose-colored glasses on, yeah, you're right, you open yourself up to like so many potentials to actually get destroyed. But then there's if you go too far the other way and get jade-colored glasses, you're just going to be depressed over everything being terrible. So
yeah, and I kind of think that humans fluctuate between those sometimes, where there's a nice even ground where they're realistic and positive, but then there's times where they become more jaded or more excited when they shouldn't necessarily be. But
there's never really humans never really are ever in one spot forever. So, and even in different situations, you might get really excited about something and think like, oh, this is going to be the best thing ever, even though you're usually very pessimistic and negative.
Yeah. Because I've always been told, and I've always considered myself kind of more of an optimist, but I think per this definition, I feel like, I don't always think things are going to be good. I just think, like things will turn out okay. Like, most of the time I don't. So that, I guess, is why, is that the same thing? If I think, oh, it'll work out, it'll all be okay. That's kind of the definition in a way. I don't know, but
I don't know. That's just like hope. I feel like just so what's your motivation to get out of bed in the morning if you're like, well, it's going to be terrible. So
yeah. Although I have had down times in life where,
oh, of course.
Yeah. You think, oh, well, things aren't going to get better, or knowing it will get better, but like the journey to that point is just too much.
That's the realism kicking in. Is like, it can get better, but there's work that needs to get it there. Right, and that's just that's beyond my strength today. Time to get up. Yeah. But yeah, so you want to hear my personal conjecture on what's the most dangerous bias in our society today?
Oh, sure.
Declinism. It's a big issue.
What is it?
Declinism.
Declinism?
Yes, you remember the past as being better than it was and expect the future to be worse than it will likely be.
Oh.
I feel like that's rampant right now.
Really?
Yeah, that's crazy. Like, I feel like everybody's just constantly just like being like, oh man, remember when it was the good old days, like everything was great, and now everything's terrible and becoming more terrible every day.
Oh, wow.
It's like pretty much the opposite to the truth, that like we are constantly like improving our society and becoming better, and like in almost every way, like
yes, see health, that go ahead.
Yeah, I mean every way. It's like the economy, health, like quality of life for individuals, like more inclusive attitudes and among society, and it's practically the opposite of this mentality, yet it seems like everybody well, at least all the loudest people seem to feel that everything's getting worse all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really sad for our society, like, yeah, generally, because it really paints things in a negative way when it could be the opposite. And this is where adaptation comes in, and like people who are able to adapt with new things and grow versus, yeah, like being stuck and not knowing how to pivot and work around things when things aren't ideal or the way that they are used to or whatever. Yeah. But I'm with you. I think overall things are better, and they're different, but they're evolving, and that's growth, and that's just it's kind of stems from, I think, one of the greater things about human society is that we as a species really like to be problem solvers, which is a great thing, but it also makes us predisposed to noticing flaws, like to honestly like attach immediately to the negative things and being like, okay, how do we fix these, because these are our biggest issues, and we can become so fixated on what all the problems are that we fail to like remember all of the things that we've fixed already. Like there's so many things that have been horrible for so long that are getting better every day, and we're just kind of like those immediately as they're getting better, like the better they get, the more they slip out of our mind because they're not a problem anymore. And so we're just kind of like, oh yeah, when like women weren't allowed to get jobs, no, definitely getting worse all the time. Yeah, right. I know. And that's part of it is you see these people who they crave, well, part of it too is, we haven't had any major issues like wars in years, that have directly affected and we haven't had like we've had crashes in the economy, we've had things here and there, but for the most part, especially the generation that's coming up, I think like behind us kind of, is they haven't had that sort of drama in the life, and so things have been kind of easy, and that's kind of what happens is you start to think, oh well, I want to make a change. I want to have a purpose and make a difference. And I want to problem solve, like you said, and create, change and which is great. But at the same time, you could do that without taking away the change that's already happened and like minimizing where we are today and like how far we've come. And so I feel like you're right. There's a certain level of, just negativity that they're and not appreciation for where we are and where we're going and things like that. So and
honestly, the cure is just like facts. Like just go out and read some positive things about like what's happened over the past 10 years. Like as much like negativity and bad things there are, like people are always chomping at the bit to tell you about that stuff, but I mean, look a little more carefully and you'll see like everything is
and it's not to say that there aren't areas that need change or that there's not problems in the world, but we're not living in a utopia yet. No, of course not. But I mean, if you look at the overall picture, the big picture of things, I think it would put a lot of people more at peace and a lot more peace than where they're at anyways. But again, they have to be able to see it through a certain viewpoint, because if you're only looking at it from a pessimistic viewpoint, you're only going to see the negative aspects of it versus, where we
but
come.
Then again, like being angry and focusing on negativity is a great motivator. Like when people are mad about stuff, it really pushes them to solve problems. And I think that's a kind of part of the reason that we evolved to focus and fixate so much on issues rather than on the things that have been solved and how things have gotten better.
It's
kind of
true.
Like pushes, it's a thing that kind of drives us forward to be like, yeah, but it's not perfect yet. We need to keep going, which is great. It's a great mentality. It's just maybe mix in a little more of the like, but look at how far we've come, Right. Yeah, there's actually, and this could be applied to like your own day-to-day life too. And this happened, I don't know if I've read it in a book or heard about it somewhere. Just the psychology of people always feeling like at the end of the day, they were a failure because they didn't accomplish like something big, like, because nowadays I feel like people have this huge pressure
like because with social media and everything, you can see what like the best of everybody else's lives. So they feel inadequate. Like, I didn't accomplish this today, or I didn't start a new business this week or whatever, you know.
Yeah, you're constantly comparing yourself.
Right. So, but a good way to sort of appreciate your own life and what you have accomplished is at the end of the day or at the end of the week or whatever, write down like all the accomplishments that you felt like you've made, in the sense that like things that made you proud for that day. So even the smallest little things, like I got up today, like that might have been hard for somebody to do. Like, I got out of bed today. That's like huge. And then I went to work, or I created something, or I made myself a meal today, or, you know, like it doesn't have to be a huge thing. But if you take the time to actually notice what you've done, or the people you've affected or talked to, or, you know, just the smallest things. I mean, you're actually making a big difference every day. You just don't notice it because you don't pay attention.
Yeah, speaking like of being like more introspective, honestly, I think journaling can be a gateway to that, to kind of force yourself to think a little more and think, especially if you focus it like that onto positivity and onto like also in productivity for like setting clear goals for what you want to be able to write down tomorrow that you did, you know? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think I talked about it earlier, but I thought I've like made a template to like bookbind my own journal, and like I want to kind of get into doing that a little more, journaling that is. But yeah, I made a prototype. It's so cool. I went out and I printed them on lame paper because it's just the prototype, and then but I bound it together. I got like some copper threading that has like this kind of copper color to it, and I sewed it all together and made a nice little bound book that has a flex edge, so you can actually open the book flat. Like, I hate those books that
I know
they want to snap closed all the time.
Yes,
it's so cool to be able to just like choose that for my own purposes. And I'm using Rocket Journal, Rocket Book. What's it called?
I got that too.
Their template to I printed out like the freeform template that I think I mentioned before that I made up a template using that before. Yeah, and then I used like an awl and punched out the little things. But I'm facing a problem now. Now that I made this kind of cool thing, even though it's just a prototype, I'm like hesitant to write in it.
Oh, really? Oh, because you don't want to mess it up?
So I worked on it so hard. And then like the first page is I'm going to mess up.
Well, so it's like, it's not the kind where you write on it and then you can upload it, right? Like, you can't take a picture. I guess you could take a picture. Yeah,
that's what you can get from their website, the like blank templates. So like it's basically just the little markers for the edges that should, like, when you pull up your camera, it'll tell the app like where the edges of the page are and like how to kind of like distort the picture so that it gets your text right. Because like if you're taking it from like slight bit of an angle, it might have to like skew the image a little bit to get it just right. And like to actually have the optical character recognition work on it. So yeah, you can print out just that, and then you can just fill in whatever you want, like in between. So I just put like the bullet journaling type grid, and then in the margins and stuff, I just kind of put some like useful, helpful information, like little Scantron type things where I can mark the date and stuff.
Nice. So you're worried about you're worried because you can't erase it, right? So you're worried that if it doesn't look nice, well, I mean, eventually you would fill it up and have to make a new one.
Well, it's a prototype, so I'm really I wanted to make sure like the bookbinding type that I worked was durable, and that it works the way I wanted it to, and then also that I find it comfortable to write in that size. Like I'm basically folding an 8.5 by 11.5, so making sure that works as like it's small enough that I can like throw it in my back pocket if I need to, but then also big enough that I can get down a day's worth of whatever I want to put in it.
Nice. So maybe just don't write anything personal in this one. Just write like different size letters how you would normally write to make sure that the spacing and everything looks nice. I don't know. Yeah,
I want to give it a good test drive, but yeah, I don't know. It's just because I know the first page, I'm going to see it every time I open, and then I'm going to get annoyed if it's like garbage.
Yeah, well,
because also it has no cover, so the first page is just what's on, what's the cover.
Well, there's your problem. Just get a cover, or do you not want a cover?
Well, it's just a prototype. I've already bound it, and
Oh.
It would be kind of difficult to attach a cover now, but
Okay. Well, how big is it? How many pages do you have?
that's a good question. I think it was 100. No, it was 50. So I think it's 100 pages because they're all folded in half.
Is this a journal that you want to carry around with you, or is it one you keep by your bedside, kind of work on it when you have a thought?
Yeah, that's kind of the interesting thing, because I would like the option to be able to carry it around, because at least, I mean, we're still COVID lockdown, but back in the old office days, long ago, we had like stand-ups and meetings and stuff that we go to, and it would just kind of be a little hectic to bring like your whole laptop, and then, you know, it's kind of like awkward if you're just there typing on your phone in the corner of the meeting, and they're like, "Are you paying attention?" And it's like, "Oh no, yeah, these are my notes." So
everybody's problem.
So it's kind of one of those things where it'd be nice to just have a physical notebook that I can like jot some things down, or even like where it's a little more free form to maybe sketch something up, or you know, a little more like mindful for those kind of more introspective pieces that I might want to like write down,
like prompts,
like the thoughts and feelings I'm having that day, just kind of like to get myself to get out of my mind and on the paper for the beginning of the day, and then I can focus on work.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I multi-purposed, kind of leaving it a little free form to see what comes of it, I guess. But it's like that. It's like breaking the seal. That's the barrier right now.
Would you say it's like, how big is it?
It's 8.5 by 11 standard size paper folded in half. So it's like to make the 2 side pages. So yeah, it's 8.5 by 6-ish.
Okay, nice. Well, when you get it perfected, maybe I'll try it out. You'll have to to replicate it somehow. Get like some production going.
Oh yeah, get like a production line. That'd be kind of cool.
Hey, we could have a No Kidding podcast merch corner, and you could sell them on there.
It's so funny that you say that, because I'm on the fence of going ahead and like maybe getting some leather or something, or like buying these, or like make like a really nice one. Because I'm pretty happy with the prototype. But there's also another podcast that I listen to, the Cortex podcast, where they've talked about journaling and stuff. And they just released as a like some of their first like merch besides like t-shirts, they're releasing a journal, and I'm like, oh, that's a nice journal. And so now I'm like torn between like, do I want to continue and like,
do I make my own or go the easy route,
put in all this work, and then, or there's just this one that would be supporting a podcast I like.
So true.
So maybe I should double down and just rip them off and be like, hey, I'm making the journal now I'm a podcast making a journal. Oh yeah, I'm sure you'll get lots of buys for that. The 2 people that listen will be like, yeah, I'll steal all their business. Yeah, buddy. No, that's funny. Yeah, but, I know. They have so many journals out there, but like you said, they're like, there's not one that maybe specifically fits your needs, because that's how I feel, where I'll look at some and I'll say, oh, that's really cool. Yeah, it's got this or that, but not this. I like that concept. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of why I guess it'd be kind of ridiculous for me to sell it to other people. I know. Who knows? Like, maybe I think a podcast is probably a good medium to do this. They're onto something, those folks. I'm talking about the Cortex podcast. Go buy their journal until we come up with one, then buy ours. There you go. It's this intersection of like, I think podcasts tend to draw like-minded people, because you know, the kind of people that would listen to 2 people talk about whatever are the kind of people that probably think a lot of like those people, you know. Yeah, so that's probably true. Might be a workable model. I don't know. That's true. If it works for you, it might work for people who like talking to you. I mean, listening to you talk. Right. Yeah, I actually bought a journal from a girl that I follow, because it was this very specific niche journal. It was a journal for traveling, so it was specifically for like a trip. Niche. I know, and that's the thing, is that's what she was saying, was she was like, yeah, there's all these journals, and there's obviously like plain paper journals or whatever, but there's specific things when I'm on my travels that I want to remember, or that I want to just like remember to jot down, and I don't think of it until, you know, later, and then I forget, you know. So anyway, so she created this journal to take with her to remind her, like, and it has prompts in there like about, you know, making a note about I don't know, I'm trying to think of something like the best thing you saw on your trip, or what's something, and there's like little pockets and things you can collect things, and there's like space for putting in pictures
specific for, specific days or specific items or whatever. I don't know. It's very specific to travel, but it was so interesting that I said, oh, well, let me give it a try. And I really enjoyed it. The only thing is, it is something that you kind of have to buy for every single trip you take, because it's only good for one trip. So like the whole book is,
wow.
Yeah.
An entire book for a single trip. That's intense.
Yeah, I know.
How much content are you putting down?
Well, I filled the whole thing pretty much. I took it when we went to Utah.
Okay.
I just happened to buy it right before that. So I was like, hey, I'll take this with me to Utah. And I was like, I wasn't really thinking I would use it, or maybe I would be able to somehow split it up into multiple trips, because I was like you, I was like, I don't think I'll fill it up, basically.
Yeah.
But it was kind of cool because it was almost like an adult scavenger hunt while you're on your trip, where you're kind of like, you think about, oh, I want to fill this part of my journal, so I better look for this, or, oh, there's I want to fill the photo thing, so I want to look for something that I can take a picture of. And I was using, I have a Insta camera where it prints like a little Polaroid that you can put in. So I was specifically using that camera for the journal. So if I wanted to put a picture in the journal, I would just use that camera. So I'd instantly have it and put it in there.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. And I was like, you know what? This is pretty neat. And there's also a part in there for, like, if you travel with people, it's kind of like in a yearbook at the end of the year, how everybody writes like a little something. And so it's like, have people sign your journal and write something about it. And so I have that now for the future. And that it's kind of a nice memory to hang on to. So, yeah.
There's some kind of fun, like almost like activity type journals out there. Like I know there's one that I participated in. My fiance was, I think, the one that originally bought it. But it was, have you ever seen those Wreck This Journal?
Yes, I have. I actually was looking for Christmas presents, and I came across it because I was going to get Mike's niece a journal. But then I was like, I don't know if this is appropriate for a 10-year-old, or like, I think she's 13. Yeah, 13-year-old girl. I don't know. But because I was reading it, I couldn't really fully get the concept. But I do know that it's like you destroy it, right?
Yeah, it's like every day essentially, I think, is a new activity. Like each page in the book, it like asks you to just destroy that page in some certain way. Like, oh, poke a bunch of holes with your pencil in this paper.
Yeah.
Page,
oh my gosh,
like,
I don't know that.
Crumple this one up, rip it out, and then stuff it back in.
No, I don't know if I could do that. Honestly, I think that's a certain type of person that could do that. Like, needs to like they get their stress relief from like destruction. I get my stress relief comes from order and function. So like that would
I don't know. I like order, but then it's also kind of I feel like it creates something unique by the end of it. Like you end up having this book that looks like it's like coming apart because like there's so much crap in it, like that's happened to each of the individual pages. Each one of them has like a little bit of personality and stuff, so it kind of becomes like eclectically interesting.
Okay. I mean, I definitely like the concept, and I like the uniqueness of it, and I definitely think it would be good for a certain type of person. Just not me.
Certain types of people could enjoy that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I could see the therapeutic benefit of doing that, like, because certain people that I work with, or like for therapy and things, like, I feel like it would be a nice, like, stress relief. Also, they have, those places where you can go and like destroy things for therapeutic release. Like you can go and take something like a keyboard or a computer or glass or whatever, and you take it to this room, and it's like a room of plexiglass, and you just take it, like,
I think you told me about this.
Yeah, there's like, you can get a baseball bat, or there's like all these different tools you can use to just like go ham on it and just like destroy it. And then it's almost like a release of anger, built up frustrations and stuff like that. I don't know. So it's just like a more delicate way of handling that, I guess. So I like it. I mean, I like the concept, but I don't know. If so I guess you could like write in it and then destroy your words too. See, this is the bad thing about journaling. Okay. And I was thinking about this because, I've always tried to get into journaling, and I've journaled some, and I've written things, but they're like all over the place. They're not in one place. I've written on so many different things. We've talked about the organization issues, but here's the thing. Like, if you write something super personal or something you probably would not tell normal people, or, like, I don't know, something, and then you die.
Comes into the physical world.
You die, and then all these people are going through your stuff, and they find it.
Die.
And then I guess you're dead already, so it doesn't matter what they think of you or what happens.
You're worried about your posthumous literary works.
Yeah, like what if like it hurts somebody's feelings or something, and you're like, no, you're dead, so you can't defend yourself. You can't say it's not what I meant. Like I don't know.
Well, you could always just lock them up, put them in a safe.
I guess, but somebody's going to break into that. They're going to say, she's dead. There's probably treasure in there. Treasure.
Oh, yeah. That'll just draw people in more, right?
Exactly. Make it more alluring.
Here's what you got to do. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, what?
Devise your own language.
That's so much work.
But wouldn't it be cool? You could write something down and then be like, hey, you can't beat it.
You're definitely onto something there. That's true. It'd be like the Zodiac Killer. Oh, have you seen that they've broken the code for the Zodiac Killer?
I did see that, actually.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
I mean, not cool. I mean, it really didn't say anything.
I mean, it is cool.
It basically explained that, or showed that he was not the most intelligent person.
It's so much more mystery when it was just this like enigmatic mystery.
True. It was kind of crazy though. Like the decoding part was cool. Like how they all worked together. They designed this program for all of the symbols to go through, and how they realized that he messed up and like shifted one or two of the lines wrong, and so that's why it was making it even harder. I don't know. It was crazy.
Wasn't there just recently like a Netflix documentary or something about it?
There's been a couple of movies about it. It wasn't recent though. It's been out for a while. I don't think there's a recent one.
I thought there was a recent one where they're like, yeah, no one's broken it, and then like the next day they're like, we broke it.
Oh, really? No, maybe there is. Not that I know of, but
I don't know. I just vaguely remember. I know there's a lot of like true crime and like murder mystery type stuff coming up on Netflix lately.
Heck
so
yeah!
I thought maybe that might be one of them.
I'm getting on that then. I'm all about true crime. I don't know. There's a fascination.
It can't be helped.
I cannot. There's basically, like, as far as entertainment goes, there's basically only two forms of entertainment that I enjoy, and that's, well, three. True crime, some kind of comedy, or Christmas. Like, that's it. This is the only thing I watch. Christmas. Well, when I say entertainment, I mean, like, I guess that's technically not true. I watch a lot, not a lot, but I have like 3 or 4 people that I watch on YouTube, like vlogs that they do. That like lifestyle stuff, I guess, like they talk about their businesses, they talk about their lives. Because I've been watching them so long, it kind of feels like a friend, like you kind of want to keep up with your friends. So yeah. I do that. So that's, I guess, it's also like human interest, I guess I would call that. Like, I feel like I feel like people who have a human interest, like people who are interested in the way that people tick and the way that people function, and are just curious about people. Goes back around to psychology. Exactly. Like, I feel like they enjoy vlogs and like reality more. But I can't stand, that's weird because I can't really stand reality shows. Like, I don't watch any reality shows.
Well, because I don't think those are at all indicative of a person's personality.
Oh, that's true.
Like, they might as well be characters. They're just doing it one take, essentially.
That's true. Actually, the only show that I watched and actually I liked, and I'm going to get hate for this because so many people thought it was the dumbest show ever. This is kind of a guilty pleasure, I guess.
Paradise Island.
No. What was the name of it? I don't even remember that. It was
Survivor.
Survivor for sure. I mean, that's just knowledge.
Wipeout.
It's with Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie, and they were in that show. What was it called? People are just screaming it probably right now. The Simple Life. So,
The Simple Life, of course.
Do you know this show?
I mean, I've heard of it, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, and you'll understand why, because as we know, my interest levels are so sporadic. So I'm always like, I want to try everything. And obviously at the time I thought it was real, and obviously now I know it wasn't a real show. They didn't
Well, it was a real show.
Well, it was real.
It existed.
But
It was
I
on
mean,
TV.
it was like you said, like how they're all kind of like reality shows back then weren't really real. It was all like, organized or whatever. But basically the show, if nobody knows, is these two girls that are like rich girls that come from rich families. They're kind of like airheads or rather if you watch the show, that's who they're supposed to be. And but in real life, they're not really like that. They're kind of more down to earth and intelligent, but they play like these ditzy girls. But at the time, that's what everybody thought they were because that's just how they presented themselves in public and everything. So they went along with it and were like, yeah, let's do the show. So anyway,
They essentially had a character and they never broke character.
Exactly. So they go and they basically do jobs. Like every episode is they go and try a different job that a simple person would have. So like a farmer.
Define simple.
Like a farmer. Like they did a show where they went to a farm and tried to be farmers. They had one where they went and did like...
So they were the first dirty jobs.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. It was like that. It was like the dirty jobs, but
with Paris Hilton, which sounds great, actually.
Yeah.
I kind of want to watch this now.
It's actually, I really enjoyed it. It's funny. And it's especially if you, because, they're kind of like stuck up girls and they're like, they act like they don't know anything. So they ask like the dumbest questions and the people that these are real people. Like they're real people with real jobs and they're trying to help these girls see what their jobs are like and giving them chores to do. And they're like, oh, I don't want to do that. And then they're like, well, you have to do it. So then they have to do it. And I don't know. It's just kind of funny. I kind of want to rewatch it, to be honest. I watched it when it was actually live on TV, like back, I don't even remember. It was like in the 2000s. So
sounds like an absolute blast.
I could have a totally different opinion of it nowadays.
Maybe we could do a podcast watch along.
Yeah, we could do a live stream or something. And watch an episode.
That would be illegal, but we could
that's
tell
right.
them when to hit play.
Well, don't they have the Amazon watch parties for Twitch?
Oh yeah, you could do it like live, but that'd be a whole thing.
Yeah. So you saw that new bill that got passed with the streaming issues that are coming up with that?
Streaming issues.
Well,
what's that?
They passed this new bill for to add a new stimulus for COVID stimulus, like relief.
Yeah, the $600.
Yeah. And apparently there was something in there in the bill because they threw a bunch of stuff in there along with it to get it approved.
You know how they do.
Yeah. So one of the things, though, was specifically targeting live streamers and people who well, not necessarily live for this part, but like live streamers and people who show or upload certain content. So like, things with music, things with video, like copyrighted video, things like that. I don't know. But I guess there was a bunch of other things. I haven't read the whole thing, but a lot of streamers and YouTubers are upset about it because it's restricting them a lot more than they were already restricted. So,
the stimulus bill is?
Say what?
So it's the stimulus bill, but how is it having an effect on them again? Hang on, roll it back.
Okay,
so they're along with the $600 they're sending to everybody, they're somehow affecting people that work with copyrighted content?
Yes. It's affecting a lot of things. Like, it's affecting horse racers. It's affecting, like...
What the heck?
Well, yeah, there's another part in there where it's like, they're not, like, the horse racers aren't allowed to give any medication to horses on race day or something like that. So, like, they're not allowed to give them painkillers or anything on a race day to help, I guess, eliminate cheating in horse racing. I don't know.
Okay.
I know. There's like so many weird things. There's one where I don't know. There's just a lot of weird ones. But specifically for this purpose, there's something about not being able to stream obviously illegal content, but anything that could be copyrighted, anything that so like I was kind of wondering if this would affect people who stream video games, because technically the video game isn't their content, but what I'm gathering is they're allowed to stream the video, the game, but they can't stream the music for the game.
Yeah, generally streamers will like disable. There'll be like a music toggle in the audio. They'll usually disable that.
Right. So now, and I don't know. I don't know specifically, but I just know that it's going to affect streamers and uploaders, and they're kind of upset about it. But not everybody, obviously. It's not going to affect everybody, but certain people. But what's crazy is I follow a girl who said I think she's one of the vloggers I was talking about, and she was like, oh, I love this song, and then she's like, but I can't play it because I could get copyrighted. She's like, so I'll just sing a couple words for you, or a couple lines for you. So she starts singing the song in the car while she's driving. So she's singing, and I think she sang like, I don't know, a couple lines, and she got copyrighted for just singing the song herself, like in the car.
Yeah, that's crazy because you can totally.
She got they said it was deemed a cover of the music.
Yeah, which is still legal though, right? Like
I don't know. That's
cover songs.
I don't know, but she got demonetized for that video, and I was like, what?
I think it's based on their content policy of the platform, and they'll say like, oh, you can't do covers because it gets in this gray area, and then like essentially the corporations that hold the licenses for that music like give them a hard time, so they just kind of blanket say like, oh no, you can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, I understand artists wanting to preserve their art and everything. But on the other hand, I find it so ridiculous.
It's not them, though, really. It's almost always like a corporation that holds the rights to it.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
It's almost never like,
but still, like,
oh, Taylor Swift is angry that you sung like a few verses of Feeling 22.
True. But I mean, I also understand like them wanting to maintain the monetary right. So like, like earning the money from whatever. But at the same time, I'm like, won't the fact that just like brands have kind of got on board with it, like won't it make people want to listen to that music more and go out and get your song more if they play it on their stream, even if it's like 30 seconds or whatever? Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel
exactly. It's like nobody's going to a 2-hour Twitch stream to be like, oh, I want to hear that Katy Perry song again
for 30 seconds,
and like scrolling through and finding the part and being like, oh yeah, here's most of that song while they're playing through this game, and there's like gunshots in the background.
I know. It's so weird to me. I'm like, oh, come on, give me a break.
But they want that like no quarter policy where they just kind of like say blanket, nobody can ever play like a bit of a song because then they have to justify why one person can do it and another person can't. And then, it's weird. Even though like most of the situations, it's totally legal what they're doing because they're, only you can play 7 seconds of a song or something, or you can cover a song. But yeah, it's just like they basically twist the arm of the content platforms to be even more strict, especially if they ever have to go into markets where that isn't the case, right? Like, what if somebody in Europe can watch this video and then their content laws are different? Then,
right.
It's a whole mess.
Yeah. So like, again, with this stimulus thing, obviously it's only affecting the United States. So, but obviously streaming and video uploading is available worldwide. So it's kind of funny. Like you said, there's like just different rules, different places. Oh, but see, and this could be fake news because I only heard this from one of my patients who was telling me. He's kind of more
fake news warning.
Yeah, fake news warning. This cannot be true. This is just hearsay. He was telling me, because he's more into like the streaming community or whatever, that he was saying that if somebody uploads something that is deemed like a copyright claim, that it's now a felony and they could go to jail for it. And I'm like, that seems really extreme.
Yeah, that seems a lot.
So I don't know, but he was like, no, it's true. Like if that's the new rules coming out. And I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of much, but I didn't look into it. I didn't research it. So I don't know.
I mean, there are some crazy situations, like, a little more clearly criminal activity, but I know that, like, some people have been slammed with, like, piracy cases where they've, you download, like, a library of movies, a couple dozen movies or so, and then they can like essentially if they decide for some reason to come knock your door down and look at your hard drive, you end up getting slapped with like 25 years of jail time, or like the equivalent of like 25 grand per movie that you downloaded. So it's like an absurd amount of money no one can pay. Or
I mean, that's always been the case though. Like pirating movies and stuff has always been a felony too.
Yeah, but it's just kind of crazy to think that like somebody can like for downloading like a couple of movies be like, you're going to be bankrupt now.
Yeah, that's true.
But I mean, I guess they have to deter criminal activity.
True that. I know. Well, what do you say? Do you say we wrap it up, or do you? I had a backup of questions. This was like kind of gonna go towards the journaling aspect, where you answer some questions at the end of every single. Well, we'll say at the beginning, because this is probably the beginning, or even the next episode will be the beginning. But basically, you answer some questions every year and see how your answers have changed, like year by year.
Wow.
It's kind of like a nice little, like, that's all you basically need to do for journaling. So there you go. It'll be taken care of for you. But we can say that.
New Year's resolution edition.
Exactly. Yeah.
You do it for one day at the beginning of the year, and then you're done. Till next year.
Till next year. Yeah, it's actually something that they do in a magazine. I want to say Vogue or something. It's one of those big magazines, and they do it with celebrities every year. And they the same celebrities answer the same questions every year. So that's where I stole the idea from. Well, I didn't.
Can I pick like the Pottermore quiz, and then like each year I'll find out like what Harry Potter house I'm feeling like that year?
Yeah.
Like, oh, this was a very Slytherin year for me.
For sure. Yeah, good. That's one way to gauge how your year was.
All right. Well, it's been real. It's been real, kiddo.
It's been authentic. So let's be a little more fake next time.
Yeah, this is too raw for public. I don't know if we can release this. It's so raw.
It is.
WWE SmackDown raw.
I know. I'm shocked I didn't laugh through the whole thing, but I guess I squelched that.
Good.
All right.
Together.
Nice. Well, I hope everyone have fun. I always forget to say at the end of the episodes, check us out on Instagram at No Kidding Podcast. And we do have a Twitter, but don't look for much there unless you're desperate. I think we have a Facebook, but
I'm desperate for that No Kidding content.
Oh, we do have, like, every episode gets uploaded on YouTube. So if you prefer to watch it that way, there's no video. There's some animations coming soon, so you might want to subscribe if you want to keep up to date with that. Right? Well, yeah, there's been a couple.
Fever dream?
No. There's been a couple. There's been a couple, so go check them out. But they're just not regular. Yeah. So, anyways, thanks for listening. If you've made it this far, we really, really appreciate it. And yeah,
this has been episode 20.
To be continued.
Cheerio, not goodbye. Remember our old tune. Be back soon.
It's like the signing off of like those old TV shows or those old radio shows. This has been
This has been NPR at night.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
I love you.